Hey, it's Dr. Brian McKay, Core Health of Darien. I'm going to ask you a question. Why would you use light to solve headaches? Let's go even more specifically. Why would you use light to solve migraine headaches? All right, if you got migraine headaches, you're probably going to your doctor. You're going to tell him he's going to put you on medication. I see it every single day as I'm watching TV more and more because of nothing else to do with COVID. Um, that a lot of commercials out there for the new cure for headaches or preventative. I mean, it's a big business. The pharmacological giants are out there pushing something to cure your headaches. Well, I want to tell you something. Quite honestly, if you're not going to a chiropractor when you have headaches, you're crazy. And your doctor's not going to tell you to go because he's not aware of it. She's not aware of it. It's not in their playbook. But you are missing out because the number of headache cases that we can help is outstanding, and the results are outstanding as well. Yesterday, I was going out for a walk. I ran into a high school girl who came in here about 3 years ago with headaches. Hasn't had a headache since. Wonderful. I think we're going to see a lot more headaches because of COVID. People are on their phones. They're on their screens much more in front of the TVs. So I think you're going to see a lot more headache cases coming about. I mean, there's a lot of tension. So let's break it down. Why should you see a chiropractor for your headaches? First of all, the headache could be a sign of something very serious neurologically. So quite honestly, if I get someone with headaches, I question. I don't find the right thing on X-ray. I look for an MRI. I'm not afraid to send out for an MRI. I mean, it's kind of when I can figure things out. Well, kick it to someone who can. Maybe the radiologist is seeing something on the MRI that I wouldn't see on an X-ray. So it just makes good sense. But how we go about treating headaches is just different, man. I use laser, and I think laser is a phenomenal tool. I mean, it's really a great tool. And you got to think of laser as, okay, why? What does the laser do? The laser emits photons, which are packets of energy. And actually, we're not supposed to call it laser anymore. It's supposed to be called photobiomodulation. I don't know if that is a code that pays more for insurance companies. Quite honestly, I don't care. But basically, photobiomodulation. It's maybe it's to charge more for the machines when we buy them. A good machine is going to run somewhere about $20,000 to $25,000 for the laser, and they use them all. So what's happening is you need energy. Cells need energy to survive, to produce, reproduce, take care of all the bodily functions. Energy comes in the form of adenosine triphosphate. And how it does that is for laser purposes, the, the light energy is basically electromagnetic energy, and it's converted into chemical energy, which is stored in the ATP, the adenosine triphosphate molecule. So let's try to make that a little less complicated. Light, photosynthesis. Just think photosynthesis. You see a plant grow. The sunlight, water, proper soil, nutrients, the plant grows. Well, our body's the same and similar. Now, the cells in our body rely on the chemical energy stored in the adenosine triphosphate, ATP molecule. And what it does is it releases that energy when you need it. And if you have a headache, you got to think of the stress that's placing on the system. So your body requires more energy. Quite honestly, it needs more energy. Something is like think of a monkey on your back. You're walking around with this extra weight on your back. Whether your body has to work harder when you have the headache. You're not operating optimally. So we use laser to fire up those cells. One process that I don't want to say I take credit for coming up with, but we actually use the laser intranasally to stimulate the sphenopalatine ganglion, which is a nerve bundle behind the kind of in the back of your nose. And we use the laser there to stimulate that ganglion and fire up those cells. And a lot of times we're getting really, really good results with that. That's for more tough cases. There's a series of reflexes that we have to check to make sure that's appropriate. So the headache, and that's just one way. I mean, the laser, but also I like to use the laser on the suboccipital fibers Sometimes people have headaches that start in the back of their neck and come all the way over into the front of the neck. So it's what that there's a loosening of the suboccipital fibers, the nerves, the muscles back there. You just rub your hands in the very bottom, like the back of your head, to where your neck meets the top of your spine. That's the area we're talking about there. And a lot of times, what will happen is your occipital bone has a hole in it that the base of your brainstem comes out into. And the occipital bone, if it's out of place, will put tension onto the brainstem. So you just imagine tension on your brainstem. So I'm going to go pop an Advil or Tylenol for a headache or Anacin, whatever you're going to pop. You got to take the tension off the base of your brainstem. And in doing so, here's what you can look forward to. One, heck of a lot better sleep. Wait, let's go. That's not the main thing. Is you're going to be out of pain, and you'd be surprised at how much pain relief you're going to get. But if you're in tune, if your doctor's not in tune with more progressive forms of treatment, you're gonna miss out. Okay, they don't see the relationship there. But let me tell you something. I've been practicing. I've been out of school for 30 years. I see enough headache cases. Headache cases, hands down, are going to get better. You have a much better shot at getting your headache relief by going to a chiropractor. Much better. So I leave that up to you as whether or not you want to try. But what I'd like to do is just go into a little bit more detail. Your nervous system, there's a couple of different types. You have sympathetic, the autonomic, broken down to your sympathetic nervous system, parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is where the body needs to be in primarily. And that's kind of think of this, the parasympathetic nerves, the nerves you don't think about. You don't think about blinking an eye. You don't think about digesting your food or your bladder emptying. You don't think about these functions. I like to call them, they're automatic. It's part of the autonomic, but we call it the parasympathetic. So parasympathetic is the day-to-day stuff. Now, the sympathetic nervous system is that fight or flight. And when you have that sympathetic dominance, you're going to add more stress to the body. And stress can make headaches worse. I mean, let's face it, some people I've heard a million times, they're just stress headaches. Well, yes, I agree, they're stress headaches. But when you enter into sympathetic dominance, your body is under siege, and it produces much more in the way of free radicals. And the free radicals are really damaging. They produce like the damaging hormone cortisol. So you really want to limit your the oxidation process, which is because about oxidation is kind of aging a cell. If you cut an apple open and you leave it out and it lets it go brown, that's oxidation. So what's happening is the things are getting old. The apple's getting older, or the cell's getting older. You're killing off cells with oxidation. And when you have more sympathetic stress, which leads to not just poor sleep, the body's operating. Just imagine you're driving a car and you haven't slept in 2 days. Well, you're not driving that safely, but there's really nothing you can do. So you drive, but you know how you're not operating 100%. Well, that's what the body becomes, but it becomes more the day-to-day type of existence where you become less aware that you're exhausted. So what happens is you're under constant stress. Most people are under stress anyhow, but this, COVID time, added stress. So what will happen when you have this added stress, you will lead to more cortisol production. But also, too, is you will lead to more blood flow going to your head and neck, and actually your legs as well. And what happens is in sympathetic is the fight or flight mechanism. So the fight or flight mechanism is kicked in full time, which is not intended for that. It's this short burst of energy is with the intention. Well, I can't tell you what God's intention for the sympathetic nervous system. I can tell you how humans adapt to the sympathetic nervous system more so. So when that happens, you have more blood flow. It's going to tighten up. That's why people have really tight trapezius muscles, is because of the sympathetic intervention. Is ramped up, and you have tightness. So the blood flow is directed away from your organs to the extremities, so you can fight that lion off, or dragon, or dinosaur, whatever. But hopefully you get the point. So sympathetic dominance takes over, and it's not a good thing. Clearly not a good thing. But also too is extra stress physically. Almost invariably, I'll see on an X-ray there's a loss of curvature. There's a normal curve you have in your neck. It's a kind of reverse C curve, and if you lose that curve, what tends to happen is the muscles have to work harder. So they're already tight. You have increased stress and tension on those muscles, pulling the vertebra further out of place. So the vertebra out of place is putting more tension onto the spinal cord lower down. Cervical 1 and 2 is primarily where the brainstem ends and the spinal cord begins. So in that space there, when you have tension on the cervical vertebra, it really is going to screw things up for you drastically. So you need to take the tension off. And we do that with a chiropractic adjustment. Now, people are afraid of the adjustments. It's like cracking your knuckles. I mean, there's a lot. Yes, there are precautions you have to take, but we screen people for that. It's kind of, it's such a rarity but it gets a lot of press, negative press. But for the most part, if you got headaches, you need to see a chiropractor. It's really that simple. It's not always that easy to find the right chiropractor. So a lot of times you may have to shop around. It's something like, listen, you may not find a dentist you like. If you don't find a dentist you like, find another one. But if you have headaches, you really owe it to yourself to try and see a chiropractor. I'm Dr. Brian McKay. Hopefully you've learned. If you have a headache, if you have a headache, call me. I mean, I'll refer you to someone. You don't have to be in my area. My number, 203-656-3636. 203-656-3636. Give us a call. I'm more than happy to direct you to a chiropractor. I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it. And a lot better ways than Advil. I mean, actually, I mentioned earlier is the sleep benefit. Do you want to sleep better? Of course you do. Well, go to the chiropractor, get yourself a chiropractic adjustment, and see what happens. I think you're going to feel a hell of a lot better. Hey, listen, thanks for listening. I hope you learned. But man, if you have headaches, please do yourself a favor. Go to a chiropractor. All right, listen, have a great day. Thanks for listening.